Okay, what's going on, everybody? My name is Mangg. This is Hanging with Mangg, episode 146. Who doggy? Today we're playing some Diablo 2 in the form of Median XL 2017, which is always an entertaining time. Yeah, so SGDQ 2017 was this week from started last Sunday, lasted till last night, I believe. It ended at like, I don't know, 5 in the morning or something ridiculous like that. And it was good. I try to watch a little bit of at least every GDQ, AGDQ and SGDQ. If you don't know what it is, it's an event for speedrunners, where a whole slew of speedrunners come together and they show off speedruns of many different games. And it usually lasts about a week, and it's for charity. It's grown quite a bit since it started. I think it originally started in just somebody's house, whereas now it's a pretty big event. Last GDQ, I believe, was the first one where they broke 2 million in donations received. This SGDQ, they got about 1.7-ish million, which is pretty good. It's quite a bit. And so, yeah, so they just have a whole bunch of games lined up. People come in, the speedrunners for those games, and they do the speedrun on camera, and it's really cool. And then people donate, and they have incentives for people to donate. They have prizes, basically, like if you donate a certain amount, you get entered into like a raffle for certain prizes. Some of them are like the really big prizes that anyone who donates throughout the whole week kind of gets entered into if they donate enough. And then each kind of block of games, like they'll have a Mario block where they do all the Mario speedruns, and then they'll have special Mario prizes for people that donate during that time, so on and so forth. And then they'll also have donation incentives for like extra speedruns that people come in and do, and they'll also have incentives for people to do like special things in the game that they're speedrunning, to do like special content that they wouldn't normally do as part of the speedrun, or like show off special glitches as like a special bonus feature, or there'll be a lot of naming incentives for games where you name the character and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of things to donate, to incentivize donating. And they get quite a few donations, and it's all streamed on Twitch live, and it's basically a 24/7 marathon for the week, and it's a lot of fun. I think if you're into video games at all, you should probably check it out when they're on, at least a little bit. I started watching it when a lot of people started watching it, which was AGDQ 2014, I believe. That, for some reason, that was the first year that they broke 1 million in donations, and for some reason a lot of people started watching that year. That's when I think it started to get a little bit bigger. And yeah, I've tried to watch a little bit every time. So they do 2 a year, AGDQ in January, SGDQ in July. And they're really pretty much the same thing. They're the same event. AGDQ goes towards Prevent Cancer Foundation. SGDQ goes towards Doctors Without Borders. And Yeah, so for the last couple of years, I've just kind of watched videos afterwards. Um, just on YouTube and stuff like that. And so that's fine, but really I think part of the beauty is watching everything live and seeing it as it comes and having Twitch chat there. As horrible as Twitch chat is, I think it does add some hilarity if you're just like, if you just go with it. Not that I contribute, it's just fun to watch. So yeah, I pretty much this year I kind of just streamed the whole thing. I watched the whole stream as much as I could. Whenever I was sitting here, I was watching it, and it was. Hold on. It was very entertaining. Specifically, let's see here. The run of Jedi Knight 2 was very fun. The guy doing the commentary was very, very, very excited about it. Very hyper guy. And it was just very fun to watch. When the runner is doing all the commentary and he's just kind of very enthusiastic about what he's doing and the tricks he's pulling off. It's pretty infectious. So that was a great run. What else? They did a whole 8-hour run of Final Fantasy VII. It's the longest run that they've ever had at a GDQ. So that was pretty impressive. And the guys doing that were very knowledgeable. That was pretty interesting. I have yet to watch the Earthbound run that finished the whole event, so I have to still watch that. Chrono Trigger, I watched about half of that. That was on Thursday, so I had to go do the Sprawl, but I'll have to finish watching that. Puexel's always a cool guy. They had a pretty entertaining Link to the Past run that was done swordless, so he never picked up the sword and he beat the game, and it was pretty funny. They had a pretty funny couch doing commentary. And yeah, there was just some gems here and there, but it was entertaining to watch live. And Twitch chat, has a penchant for just ridiculing every single thing that's on screen at all times, and so one of the prizes, their big prize for the whole event, if you donated $150 at any, throughout the whole event, you are entered into this raffle to get a custom PC. So it was a custom PC. It had like games done quick engraved on the side of it and stuff like that. And so they started talking about how like top of the line it was and things like that, top specs and all that. And then he started actually listing like the parts in it. And he mentioned a GTX 1060, which is not a terrible graphics card. That might even be what I have on my computer right now. I honestly don't remember. I don't keep track of that too much. It might be what I have. So it's not a horrible graphics card. But when they're talking like top of the line and stuff like that, you don't think of a 1060, a 1070, a 1080, whatever, maybe, but so Chad just kind of lost it, and for the rest of the event, whenever they mentioned the computer, they would just laugh about the 1060 in there, because they mentioned it was like a $3,000 computer, and it was like, yeah, okay, top of the line, we'll run anything you want. So that was pretty funny, and the one guy that was talking about the computer made the mistake of, he misspoke, and instead of saying that the SSDs inside of it were 500 gigabytes, he said 500 megabytes, and that, I just could not stop laughing. That was probably the funniest thing of the whole event, which was not even a speed run or anything, but yeah, so anyways, it's always a fun time. Speed running, I have no interest in doing a speed run myself. I just don't have the patience for it. I don't like any game enough to spend that much time just doing the same thing over and over and trying to just be fast. Like, that's not really how I enjoy games, but I do. It's kind of like, you know, it's kind of like the joy of painting with Bob Ross. I would never paint myself. I don't have any interest in doing that, but I love watching him do it, and it always impresses me. So it's kind of like that, you know. So I like watching speedruns. Pretty much speedrunning is what got me into making videos. Because I discovered that people were doing speedruns. Like, that was I discovered that that was a thing, and I watched some videos about it. And somehow that led me... I think I was watching speedruns and I was like, oh, you know what would be cool is just watching someone play through a game. That was my thought at the time. It's like, oh, it'd be cool to just, you know, have someone play through the game. And I don't remember what game was like the first one that I looked up for, like, I don't even know what I around that time I'm sure I discovered the term Let's Play, and I don't remember what game it was that I looked up, but that led me to Dave the Usher on GameAnyone.com. And of course, the rest is history. So we can thank speedrunning for me making videos. So sadly, the event is over now, if you were hoping to watch it live. But AGDQ is in the first week of January, so mark your calendars, because it'll probably be a pretty good time. There's a lot of complaints about, like, censorship and sort of the heavy-handedness that they handle, sort of the keeping a PG rating for the GDQ, because, you know, now they have sponsors and they're like an official thing for the charity, and so they want to keep everything very, you know, very advertiser friendly and stuff like that. So yeah, they have banned runners in the past for being inappropriate, and they have there's a surprising number of transgender people in the speedrunning community, as opposed, like, compared to the general population. And so Twitch chat does not do well with that. And so this year, whenever they had anybody, like, you know, like that on screen, they turned Twitch chat into emote only. And then there was this whole thing with one of them, and she complained about Twitch chat and a specific emote, and so they banned the emote, and there was a lot of trouble. Yeah, I mean, you deal with Twitch. It's gonna be rough sometimes, especially with that many people. I mean, 220,000 people watched the Super Mario 64 run, so a lot of freaking people. Anyways, that's enough about GDQ. It's just, you know, that's what I spent most of my week doing, so it's a good time. I enjoyed it. I'm sad it's over. We have to wait until January. In fact, next year, Ziggy and I were talking about maybe actually going to SGDQ, because it's not that far away, and just for a weekend, it might be a fun time. Watch a few runs, get some food, and just kind of have a good time there. So maybe. Yeah. All right. So this week on the Exploring series, on Monday we had the Boba Fett video, which was not tremendously received, but that's fine. I worked on the Darth Bane video, which was very, very close to becoming the longest Exploring video. And it could have been if I had just kind of extended the end portion. but very close. So it's a pretty lengthy video. I kind of wanted to do him justice and sort of sum up everything important. Pretty interesting character. Fairly important character as far as Star Wars lore is concerned. And it does mark the final Star Wars video as part of the normal series. Just like Middle-earth and the Cthulhu Mythos, I will likely come back to some of it at some point. Yeah, so, as I mentioned last week, then, on Tuesday I'll be putting up a video for the poll. Friday will be the revised poll with the cut-down options. And then next Monday I'll announce the winner of the poll, and the following Monday will be the first video. So that means I have pretty much kind of a week off. Right after my vacation where I don't need to work on a video. I'll probably start researching more Hammer 40K, just because I'm pretty sure it's going to win, but you never know. So I hope everyone votes, rock the vote and all that. I hope people tell their brothers and their friends and their cousins and their grandmas, get in there and vote. On this channel, we started Nier Automata, which was, it's a game that I've heard good things about. A lot of people seem to like it, and it was on the Steam sale, and I figured, okay, it's not cheap. It wasn't like under $10 or anything like that, but it's cheaper than it normally is, and people like it. I'm looking for something to let's play. Seems like it all kind of works out. So we started that. There doesn't really seem to be much on the horizon, so I guess we'll be playing that for a while. We also had Spirit Tracks, which is not much to say about it really. And yeah, that's pretty much it. We had the Sprawl on Thursday, and that's kind of it. Alright, so board gaming. It's been a while. Been a while since I've done proper board gaming, what with vacation and all that. Okay. So Monday, Mert actually joined us, which was pretty rare, and so we needed a good 5-player game, and so I offered up Cosmic, but I also offered up BSG. And we settled on BSG, Battlestar Galactica. And I actually used one of the expansions this time. This is my first BSG game using an expansion, even though I've owned it for like 2 years. So we played with the Pegasus expansion, which includes the Pegasus ship. It has new characters. It has some new cards, and it has the new Caprica module, which changes the ending of the game. So instead of just jumping a bunch of times and then jumping one last time and the humans winning, instead everyone lands on new Caprica, and you have to do some shit on there. And if there are some revealed Cylons, they also land on New Caprica, and so everyone is just kind of co-mingling. And this might be a spoiler for the show, I guess. But everyone's mingling there on New Caprica. And yeah. And so we started up our 5-player game of BSG. And I got first pick of characters, so of course I picked my main man, Gaius Baltar. because he is the best character on the show. And I actually used the revised guy, well, not like the alternate Gaius Baltar. The normal one has the bummer of being more likely to be a Cylon because he gets 3 loyalty cards instead of 2. But the alternate one does not have that. Instead, he gets an ability where basically everyone gets like a token, a miracle token, at the start of the game. And every character has a once per game ability. And once they use their once per game ability, they remove their token. So if they don't have a token, they cannot use the once per game ability. Gaius Baltar's ability, if he's in the same location as another person, he can take their miracle token, or give a person a miracle token. So he can just remove somebody's ability to use their once per game ability. And then if he can spend 3 miracle tokens to increase any resource by 2, which is a pretty clutch ability, can really actually save the game for the humans. But, of course, I was handed a Cylon card immediately. So, right out of the gate, I was a Cylon. Which is what I prefer, because not that the game as a human is boring, but it's so much better as a Cylon. Everything is just much more interesting. For me, I mean, other people might prefer to be humans. So, the game began, and things were going pretty good. I was playing fairly subtly. I was not trying to overstep my boundaries as a Cylon. Trying to play low-key, because I figured we were going to be here for a while. You don't want to jump the gun. But about 3 or 4 turns in, I think it was 4 turns. Maybe 5 turns. Somewhere towards the start of the game. It gets to Mert's turn. And he starts his turn by saying, okay, Mangg's the Cylon. And everyone's just like, okay, how could you possibly know that? And so he starts explaining how in the last skill check, when everyone, puts in cards, that there was pretty much a discrepancy. There were too many bad cards, because there's always 2 random cards thrown in to throw people off. But there was like 3 or 4 bad cards, which means that some player put in some bad cards, and the bad cards that were played were of a color that really only me and one other person had access to, and he hadn't put in any color. He hadn't put in any cards that turn. Ergo, the only person that was capable of putting in bad cards and did was me. This was all very true. I had kind of messed up. Not that I had messed up, I had been unlucky with the random cards that were also bad. If they were good, it would have been no problem, because nobody would have known where the bad cards came from. But, as he correctly observed and deduced, I was indeed the Cylon. You might think, well, shit, that sucks for you. Aha, but as Denzel Washington so famously said in Training Day, it's not what you know, it's what you can prove. So Mert did a very good job being very observant and deductive in figuring that out, but it was pretty useless unless he could convince the others of this fact, of which now my goal was to obscure that fact as much as possible, to which I succeeded. A few minutes later, they basically thought Mert was just insane. Just kind of a quack. Partly his own fault. Well, a lot of his own fault. He just couldn't explain it properly. And he tried to have me, executed. Because his character's ability let me, instead of being thrown in the brig, he could just have me executed. And so once you talk about executing somebody, it's like, oh, holy shit, slow down, you know, like that was really jumping the gun. So yeah, they pretty much thought he was crazy, even though he was completely right, and that must be oh so infuriating. um, and so yeah, I mean, I'm pretty good at lying. I don't know. I just am. My mother taught me. I don't know. So the game continued on. And as the game continued on and more loyalty cards were handed out, you know, I was trying to figure out, okay, who is my companion? Who's the other Cylon? Who's with me? And honestly, I really wasn't sure. I was pretty sure it wasn't Mert, because he wouldn't try and do that if he was actually... He wouldn't. So I was pretty sure it was not Mert, even though others thought it was Mert. I thought maybe Ziggy. I just wasn't sure. Which is good, because if I'm not sure, then they're really not sure. And the best companion I can have when I'm a bad guy is a very subtle, quiet bad guy. So I was glad. And things tanked pretty hard for the humans from then on, and they just couldn't get their shit really together. And shit. They we were about to jump one more time. Or no. I think I'm trying to remember. Oh, so I had the 3 miracle tokens. So I could, like, they were really low on a They were really low on a resource. And so they were planning on me using my ability my next turn so I could kind of save the day. Because our population was, like, pretty much done. But instead, I forced a jump and ended up killing the last 2 population, causing the Cylons to win, which was sort of my reveal that I was a Cylon. And then Thomas actually revealed himself as the other Cylon, which was a big surprise to me. He just played it very subtly, very quietly. Instead of putting in, like, bad cards to skill checks, he just put in very low point cards, which, yeah, it helps. Come on. Because people assume when you put in cards, they assume, like, an average value, but if you're just lowballing them every single time, it works out. All in all, though, very entertaining game. I had a great time because, I mean, Gaius Baltar as a Cylon winning, it's just, what more do you want? Yeah, BSG, great. The others then got to realize how stupid they were ignoring Mert, and Mert got to kind of vent his frustrations. But, yeah. I don't know why people ever trust me anymore, but there you go. So that was Monday. That was Monday BSG. Just a great game. Yeah. Okay. What else? So, you know, I finally came back, and when we left off, my mom and I were playing a lot of Netrunner. But while I was on vacation, um, there was a board game breakfast on Dice Tower, and one of the segments on there talked about the World of Warcraft TCG, the trading card game. And I must have been in a haze or something like that. I don't know, but I thought it looked pretty cool, and I was like, "Oh, wow, TCG, that looks cool." There's a lot of cards. It's an older game. Maybe I could pick up like a huge lot of cards for pretty cheap, and why not? So I looked down eBay and I looked around, and sure enough, there was a big lot of cards. It was like, I don't know, it was like 1,500 or something, like 1,500 cards or something like that for like $20, and I was like, sure, why not? So I placed a bid. I was the only bid. And then it kind of sat there for like 6 days, and I was still the winning bidder until I got on my flight on Sunday to go home. That's when it ended, and right before it ended, there was a flurry of bids, and it ended at like $26, and I was not the winner, and so that made me pretty sad. And so I was like, well, I can't have that, so I just went on Amazon and I bought a couple starter decks. Like in shrink wrap starter decks from way back in the day. Pretty cheap. I mean, they were like $7 for starter deck. You get like a 30 card deck, some giant hero cards, and a couple booster packs. That's been like the funniest thing is going back to booster packs. There is just an odd charm about booster packs, opening them and really having no idea what you're going to get. Nowadays with LCGs, you know exactly what cards you're going to get and the exact right amount of cards you're going to get in every pack you buy. But it does take away some of that charm of booster packs. And so, yeah, so I bought the 2 starter decks, and then I was like, oh, it would be cool. Because the game support, you can play with more than 2 players pretty easily. And in fact, they have a bunch of raid decks that they have like raids like in Hearthstone where you're playing against a boss, like the adventures, but in the TCG you either have like everyone's playing against an AI raid, or a person is playing as the raid themselves and everyone else is against them. And I was like, that seems like a really cool concept for a board game night. Unfortunately, it's not exactly cheap to get to that point. If I could redo what I've done, I would probably just wait out and look for another lot on eBay of like 2,000 cards or something like that. Because as it stands, I've just been buying things like new in shrink wrap on Amazon. Although I did buy some cards on eBay. This guy had like 40,000 cards or something like that, and so he was kind of selling them out in like packs of 60 for $8. So you get 60 random cards from the 40,000 lot for $8. Still not the best way to do it. I could have gotten 1,500 cards for $20. So yeah, right now I'm at the point where I have like, I have 2 full 60 card decks, no problem. But I need a few more cards to get 4 60 full 60 decks. So yeah, it's kind of like a sunk cost type thing where it's like, well, I can't back out now. I need to finish what I started. Yeah, not exactly a cheap endeavor. Hold on, I'm like blind. Not that. Not that. This. Yeah, and I'm waiting to get the raid deck. I got the Onyxia raid deck coming, so I don't, it's not like a hugely well-received game, because it's kind of like, it's a bit of a rip-off of Magic the Gathering, right? Like, it borrows a lot of the same kind of concepts. but it does alter some things, and you can see where you can definitely see all the basis for Hearthstone. So then I was like thinking, I was like, man, did I make a big mistake? Like, it was just really a stupid idea. What am I doing? I could have just gotten like new starter decks or whatever. They have like sets you can buy for starting out with Magic the Gathering. And I was like, yeah, that's interesting, but then I was like, well, if I really wanted just like that CCG booster pack type feel, I could have just got Millennium Blades. So I ordered Millennium Blades. Millennium Blades is a game that came out last year, I think, fairly recently, from Level 99 Games. And it's a well, I mean, I don't know the rules, but it's a two-phase kind of game where the first phase is like the economic side, the CCG side, or something like that, where you are acquiring new cards. And I mean, they say that it's just like opening booster pack. That's like how it feels. So I don't know exactly how it's handled with getting new cards and acquiring new cards. And then you're trading cards and you're selling cards between the other players and stuff like that. And it matches like just the whole CCG kind of economy, with getting new cards and trading them and stuff like that. And then in the second phase, I guess you actually play like a CCG type game where you're actually using the cards you acquired in the first phase to play a game. I don't know how it all works, but I've heard many good things about it. It's ranked fairly high on BGG, and I've been looking at it for quite a while, and I finally was like, all right, I'm done with the whole Germany nonsense. I'm going to buy some freaking board games. That's my life. So yeah, I got that coming tomorrow, and I'll probably learn the rules as quick as I can, and we'll probably play it tomorrow night. All fingers crossed, because it looks pretty cool. And that's about that, I think, for board games. My mom did not really like the WoW TCG. We played it. We played a few games with sort of the starter decks, and she did not care for it too much because it is slightly complicated. It's slightly more complicated than Hearthstone. They add some, it's actually, I mean, they took away some things from Hearthstone. And I mean, I'm not bad at card games. I've played many of them. I have a good amount of experience. I'm not great at them compared to, a lot of other people. But I think I'm okay, whereas my mom, of course, is not that good at those kind of games, and so I pretty much decimated her every single game we played, and that's just not fun, and it's not really fun for me to really just dumb myself down. Netrunner seems to work out if we play the core set, although I'm getting better at that, so it's hard to say. I think her favorite game was Arkham Horror LCG because it was cooperative. So yeah. Yeah. Alright. Now that we're 40 minutes into this, let's talk about the Sprawl. Alright. So it took a little bit of work to get back into it after our big break that we had where nobody really remembered anything that was going on. But we finally got things started in Phoenix, Arizona, 2059. And we are playing fairly low-scale runners. Not quite street scum, but pretty damn close. Phil's character lived in like an abandoned attic above some homeless crack fiends or something like that. So yeah, pretty poor. And We start out with Phil's character, Zoke, getting a phone call from a number he does not recognize. And it turns out that they want to hire a crew for a job, and they would call back with details. So he told us about it. We met up at Thomas's character's apartment, and we had the phone call. And so the job was to go into a sewage processing plant or something like that, a pumping plant, something like that, and to sabotage it. So they wanted us not to blow it up or anything like that. They wanted us to go in, go to the main controls or whatever, and reverse the flow. Okay. Far be it from me to question what the employer wants. You just do it. And so that was pretty much it. He said we would be paid and, figure it out as you go. So I'll admit that I was rusty on Thursday. I had not played an RPG in a while. So the idea that I was working with was not perfect. It's not a perfect classic Mangg kind of plan, but whatever gets the job done. So my first thought was, I honestly did not even mention or really consider just hacking it from like above ground, because it was an underground facility. Maybe in the real world or something like that, a real hacker could just do that from his desk or something like that. But I figured that's not how this was gonna work, so there's no point mentioning it. So my first thought was kind of to go in, masquerading as maintenance workers in uniform and bluff our way in or whatever we need to do. Probably start some trouble. And so I delegated Phil to perhaps getting some uniforms for maintenance workers, and I delegated Thomas to finding some non-lethal weapons, because all they had was lethal weapons. And you don't want to always use lethal weapons, because that's how you get into trouble. So I wanted him to find something non-lethal. And I've always said it's important for a leader, which that's what I am. Generally in a group of characters. There's nothing wrong with not being the leader. It's just I tend to be the most vocal person. I think it's very important for a leader to delegate stuff and to give tasks and things like that, and to allow some autonomy to the other characters, rather than just saying, okay, you do this, and you better do it like this, and if you do this, I'll kill you, and blah, blah. Like, no. You just give them a task, and usually try not to worry too much about how they accomplish it, because that's kind of supposed to be part of the fun. I mean, maybe they want me to tell them exactly what to do and how to do it. Maybe they prefer it. I have no idea. But until they speak up, I will continue to just sort of delegate like that. So, Thomas went to the local sports store type place, which was called Ball Bros, because we're a very mature group of players. And so he goes in and he decides that he wants, for his non-lethal weapons, he wants a metal baseball bat and some fishing line. Um, which is pretty funny. I don't know if he's ever gone fishing. But for anyone that has, imagining that as a garrote is pretty funny. Because you would need some really high test fishing line to choke somebody with it. At least that's what I think. And we told him this, so he got like the highest test he could find. And that he just kind of stuck under his shirt. Because we have no money. Ziggy decided that we really have no money. And I mean, this is what I will complain. I will complain about the sprawl. And I think it's not. I guess it's not a complaint. It's more like a preference for the table. Some people will prefer sort of having a bit more of an abstract monetary system that you don't have to worry about. You know, you can just say, okay, you have 3 cred, and this is all worth about 3 cred or 1 cred or whatever. Whereas other people will prefer the Shadowrun system where Nuyen is tied out to an exact number. And I am definitely in the camp of preferring the Shadowrun system of money. It just, I don't know, I think it makes things less complicated. Because, like, you know, you say you rob a guy. Say I rob a guy. Either he has at least a cred, which is a decent amount of money. With a cred, you can buy a handgun. Or he has 0 cred, which means he has nothing. He has no money on him. Like, there's nothing in between. I can't get like $50 off the guy. Like, it's just ridiculous. And there's no decimals or percentages or anything like that of cred. It's either there's a cred or it's not a cred. That's why I like Shadowrun, where it's like, yeah, he has 647 Nuyen. Boom, there you go. You know exactly how much he's got. It just makes things so much easier. So this was really just kind of an odd thing at the trying to buy a baseball bat, because Ziggy said, well, you have 0 cred, so you have like no money. But then he said that 0 cred means you have basically enough money to live by. You have enough money to live on. And so it's like, you know, Thomas pretty much asked, like, well, okay, can I skip a meal to get this baseball bat? Because I would do that. But no, it's abstract. And so you have no money. I mean, of course, it made for an interesting and hilarious scenario where he was stealing this baseball bat. But it's bothersome to me. Whereas in Shadowrun, you could say, well, I have 31 Nuyen. What can I buy for 31 Nuyen? And then it's like, well, you don't have enough. It's like, well, okay. I still don't care for calculating like every single thing that you buy or need to spend money on. You know, while Shadowrun kind of alleviates this by having a lifestyle cost that you pay every month. But you just have to kind of remember to do that every month. But most Shadowrun characters don't live a month, so it's not a problem. You just pay it once when you make the character, and then you're good. Anyways, so he wants to steal this baseball bat, but a baseball bat is a pretty big thing to like put under your shirt or down your pants. People are probably gonna notice. So he takes the baseball bat, he like takes off the stickers and stuff like that, and he goes to the front desk and he's like, I'm looking for some balls. And so basically he kind of pretends to be like nearsighted or something like that. So they call over a guy, Larry, to escort him over to where the balls are. And so Larry's like, well, you have a baseball bat, of course you need some balls. And so Thomas is like, no, I mean, this baseball bat is mine. I brought it in. And Larry's like, sir, please. And so he really tries to pressure him into admitting that the bat was not his, but Thomas was not going for it. He was sticking to his lie. And so he basically eventually said, like, you're harassing me about this baseball bat that I brought in. I'm not going to stand for this. I'm just going to leave. You won't even sell me balls. I'm just going to leave. So he tries to go out and eventually starts running out. And Larry chases after him. And he realizes that before he could get on his motorcycle, Larry will be pretty much tackling him. So he turns around abruptly and swings his baseball bat at Larry's chest or something like that. And pretty much leaves him crumpled onto the parking lot ground. And so there you go. There's a nice little felony while you're trying to get a baseball bat. Which is funny because I asked him for a non-lethal option and he got a metal baseball bat. But again, see, this is why you delegate, you know, because you get hilarious scenarios like that if I said I'm going to get you a baseball bat and I got him a baseball bat, then that would be the end of it. Of course, I would not have gotten him a baseball bat. When I think non-lethal, you think like a taser or something like that. Which, yeah, he would have also had to steal a taser, but it probably also would have been funny. But hey, at least the end of it, you have like an actual non-lethal weapon. Anyways, so that was that. It was pretty funny. Phil, on the other hand, decided to go meet a contact of his that apparently it was some ex-employee of this company that were going to be sabotaging, and he had apparently, like, encountered him while doing a job, and I guess he had threatened his life or something like that, but for some reason he also had his address, so he knew where he lived, and it was just a really ridiculous setup. But anyways, he goes to this guy's apartment. He goes up like the fire escape, and he crashes through this guy's window while he's sitting there watching TV. This old guy, he's like 70-something years old, and he's retired. And he like puts him in a arm lock or something like that, and he drags him into the bathroom. And he, like, opens his suitcase and pulls out, like, a hammer or something like that. Or a taser. It was something ridiculous like that. I think he had a taser. And basically he just wanted to know some names of people that worked for this company that we could go talk to. And it's like, well, there's probably easier ways to find out who the HR manager is for this company than threatening an old man in his apartment with a taser. But again, this is why you delegate, because it's funny to me. Embarrassing, perhaps, but funny. Shit. Right after I leveled up. So yeah, we eventually got this name of a guy. I think his name was Zach, who was apparently a security guard at the plant. Although I think this was a flub on Ziggy's part that nobody noticed except for me, but that's fine, because this old guy that he was interrogating worked at the number 2 plant, whereas we were breaking into the number 4 plant. And so the people that he was listing off were people that worked at the number 2 plant with him. But when we moved on to handling the security guard, I guess he just happened to work for number 4. Nobody said anything, and I wasn't about to say anything because, you know, you just let the story flow and it's fine. So yeah, we find out the name of the security guard. Meanwhile, I went over to the facility itself, or at least above the facility, because it's underground. And I found the maintenance hatch, because there's basically one access tunnel that leads into it where all vehicles and stuff, the main access tunnel. And then there's a single maintenance hatch from above ground that you can also access. But okay, the maintenance tunnel is better than the access tunnel. And so then I hacked into their system from above ground, and I tried to poke around and see what I could find. And I did it successfully. I was not detected or anything like that, so that was pretty good. And I found out the number of personnel that are working there. There's at any given time there is 4 security guards on duty. There are 3 maintenance workers and a 1 foreman or overseer or something like that. So I thought, okay, maintenance worker probably not gonna really work. What the hell? Because with only 3 of them that work at that site, they'll know everybody pretty closely. And really, with that small amount of personnel, pretty much anything we try is gonna be risky because they'll know everyone. But since there's, I think there was like 9 total security guards, it's easier for a new security guard to come in and replace another one for a shift or something like that. It's more believable, I mean. So, I called up Phil and I said, okay, change of plans. We're not going to be doing maintenance workers. We're going to be doing security guards. And he says, oh, well, I know the name of a security guard that works there. Okay. And he happened to live a few blocks from where the plant was. So I'm like, okay, I'll go check out his place, see what I can find. So I go over to this guy's place. He's a 20-something single dude. He lives in his own house, so he gets by. He does all right, considering the rest of us live in just shitholes. He works for a megacorp. So, I go over to his house. And I hack into his system. I find out he has pretty minimal security. I find out the access code to his back door, so that's good. And I try changing it so that if his alarm system needs to dial out to an emergency number or whatever, it instead dials to my phone. So that he'll think the alarm's been triggered and help's on the way, but really it was just me. Which is, of course, a classic hacker move, as anybody knows. But I actually failed that roll, and so an alarm was triggered, and he happened to be home. So he came outside and he started snooping around, so I had to run. But I told the guys that it seems like a fairly easy target. He's not really that secure. And he lives alone, he's single. It's probably pretty good. So we started formulating the plan of, okay, well, we're going to need some security uniforms. We need a key card. And it would be nice if we could alter the key card, but we'll see what happens. So we pretty much decided, okay, we'll just break into this guy's house. And we'll just wait until he comes home after his shift, because we knew when his shift was. And then once he's home, we'll just ambush him, use the fishing line, and get his uniform and key card. So that's pretty much what we did. We went inside, we broke in, we used the access code that I had found out. We started rummaging around the entire house. Not really too much valuable there. Again, it's like... this is what I'm saying. Like, new yen wise, you could just say, oh yeah, he's got a couple hundred new yen lying around, which is not a huge amount, but it's like, oh, all right, 200 extra new yen to throw in the pot. Whereas cred, it's like, oh yeah, he's got a whole cred sitting around, which is like, it's like 800, 900 new yen. It's like, that's just too much. There needs to be some degrees of money. It's just, I don't like the system, and I might look into altering it. Which really wouldn't be that difficult. because all you have to do is just kind of come up with monetary values for all the equipment and things like that, which, if Ziggy and I put our heads together, isn't that big of a problem. I would much prefer it to just have numerical amounts. Anyways, so while we're rummaging around and just kind of sitting there waiting for this guy to come back home, we get a knock on the door, and it's the police. Because they had heard about an alarm being triggered, and they were just checking up on it, and so on and so forth. And apparently a neighbor had seen someone enter the house, and so they called the police. And so Phil answers the door, and as soon as he claimed that he was this guy's brother, I slip a note to Ziggy saying that I sneak out the back door. I was like, yeah, I'm not dealing with this. Because if he had said he was his friend, okay, that's better. Obviously, it's a little shadier, but god damn it, I die so easily. But, you know, when the cops asked to see his ID and he said he was his brother, you know, he better have the same last name, otherwise there's going to be some more questions asked. And so he said that he didn't have his ID on him, he lost his wallet, which is the shadiest lie to ever lie. And the cops actually ended up just kind of walking away and telling him that, okay, well, you know, bring your ID, your identification down to the station within a couple hours, some form of identification. And he's like, okay, I'll be there. And I was already out the back door. I was gone. But he managed to handle himself, so that was good. So then Thomas tells us that... Oh, god damn it. It's such a pain in the ass to summon these things every time. Thomas tells us that he'll take care of it. We can leave. He'll wait around for the guy and take care of it. So, okay. So he ends up waiting for the guy. He ends up, like, sitting behind his couch, and then when the guy gets home, he takes out his fishing line. He garrots him. And video game garroting and choking and strangling and stuff like that and set movies is very different than real life. I read about this. I don't know, it was a while back. But like like if you're knocked unconscious by loss of by asphyxiation, like loss of breathing, like you're either dead or like brain damage. Which makes sense. I mean, it does not take much oxygen lost to your brain for problems to occur. And from the sounds of it, he garroted him for a good long while. So I was like, yeah, this guy's probably dead or retarded in some way. He's not going to just wake up with a sore throat. And so I had convinced Ziggy of this, and so he agreed that made sense. So, he got his key card. We actually found 2 spare uniforms in... Come on, Jesus. Holy shit. He actually found 2 spare uniforms in his closet, so he got his key card and his comlink and his gun. And he comes back, and we hack the comlink. We get a cred out of his bank account. And, we destroy the comlink, as you must do, and we start kind of rethinking our plan. God, it fucking stun locks you. Holy shit, that's just ludicrous. Anyway, so we revised the plan kind of last minute. We decided that I don't know who it was that originally mentioned the fire alarm, but we mentioned triggering the fire alarm, and then like as they're rushing out of the building, we can go down the maintenance hatch, and so then we'll have time between when they rush out and when the fire department arrives. But then we thought, okay, well, if we're gonna do that, if we're gonna trigger the fire alarm, why not just do what I tried to do at the house, where we alter the fire alarm, where instead of dialing to the fire department, it dials to me, or disables it, and like it doesn't dial to anyone, but the alarm still goes off, so people think it's a fire alarm. So then we decide, okay, that's a great plan. We'll just do that. They'll all rush out. The other two go in while I stay above ground. And then they have until the personnel think something's not right and they come back in, which should be a decent amount of time for them to go to the computer and reverse the flow. So that was the plan we decided on. Before we could implement it, though, the session ended. So yeah, we had quite a bit of fun just kind of preparing for the job. You know, all these RPGs now that try to streamline things, and they try to have it so that the preparing for the job is really like simplified and generic. So you just like this and Blades in the Dark, where it's like, okay, you basically, like in the Sprawl, you're supposed to just get like generic intel and generic gear, and then you jump into the job, and then during the job, you just say, okay, I have this intel that I got, and then you explain what the intel is. Or I have this gear, I have this piece of equipment, and then you explain what it is. It's a nice thought, but it doesn't work for me. I cannot do it. For me, that is not how RPGs are done. I like to prepare everything. I like to have every contingency that I can think of ready to go. I like to get all the gear, and it's not that I like to spend 30 minutes or 45 minutes getting a single piece of gear. I mean, you can skip over it, but I like having the gear before we start the job. I don't like to magically wave my hands later and say, oh yeah, I have this piece of gear. Like, that kind of ruins the whole thing for me. That's not part of the game. That's my opinion. So yeah, I mean, I am perfectly happy spending an entire session preparing for a mission that would take like 45 minutes. But I like it. I like it a lot. So yeah, I'm going to look into trying to convert the cred system to just new yen or whatever, just tracking monetary amounts, because I think it's just a lot better. But overall, yeah, the Sprawl seems pretty decent. We didn't get to do an actual job yet, so I can't really comment on it. Not many moves were made throughout our session. But, yeah, seems like it could be pretty fun. All right, we talked over an hour again, but you know how it is. Yeah, so check out the Darth Bane video tomorrow. Please vote in the poll on Tuesday to decide the next series. More Nier Automata and more Zelda coming this week. And, yeah. My name is Mangg. This has been Hanging with Mangg. I will see you fine folks next week.